everyone, and welcome to another amazing episode of The Joy of Being for busy working mums and women in business and beyond who are seeking to unplug from their worries and overwhelm to light up with insight and joy. I, your host, mum, and effortless lifestyle coach Marina Pearson, talk to transformational professionals, business owners, and creatives about what it really takes to have a business and life you can truly enjoy. And today I've got some amazing news. You can now pre-order your very own version of The Joy of Being book, supporting hardworking mums to stress less and live more. If you're the type of mum who is struggling with the burdens of motherhood or modern day life, then this will be a perfect book for you. If you're curious, you want to know more, and you want to see what's up with that book, you can do so at www.marinapearson.com/order. And there you'll find all the amazing goodies that you'll get if you pre-order the book before the 10th of May. And on today's show, I'm interviewing Jenny Garrett. Jenny Garrett is an executive coach and the author of Rocking Your Role. And as she introduced herself, there was so much more that she can say about who she is. And on today's episode, we talked about what it is to be the female breadwinner, but also how to actually enjoy it and make it joyful and brilliant. We also discussed what stops female breadwinners from enjoying the journey and society's assumptions around it, and how we can break through those assumptions and how it's possible to do what works for you. We also talked about the importance of just checking in with your partner with regards to how they are with it and how it's actually flexible. It doesn't have to stay this way for the rest of your life. It can change. There are chapters. And so what I loved about this conversation was that it opened my eyes to me being a female breadwinner, but also in the interim, it's going to really help you if you are too and you're struggling. So if you are the female breadwinner and you are struggling and you would love to free yourself from this maybe insecurity that you have around being it, then this is going to be an amazing episode for you. Enjoy. So welcome everyone. Today I have the beautiful Jenny Garrett, and I'm super excited to talk to her about being the main breadwinners as women. So welcome, Jenny.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Marina. I'm very excited, and I really appreciate you inviting me on, actually.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you coming. So I'd love you to introduce yourself.
Yes. So I'm Jenny Garrett. I'm an award-winning executive coach and an author and a speaker, and I run a leadership consultancy. And I've been running my business for about 13 years now. How did I come to do it? I used to work in marketing. I had senior marketing roles, and a colleague who came into my office one day and just said, "Where next? What are you going to do with your life?" And I thought, I'm here. I'm doing something with my life. And she said, "No, you can do more." She suggested I start to train people in marketing. And that wasn't something that really appealed to me. I was actually a nervous public speaker. It wasn't something I was comfortable doing. And then she said, "What about coaching?" She said, "Faculty come into your office on a daily basis. They come away motivated. They come away with actions." And to this day, I think maybe she was flattering me a bit, but I thought, well, I could go on a coaching program and I'll have another string to my bow and I'll have something else in my CV. So I went on this coaching program, and like many people who have done so, I came away really thinking about myself in a totally different way. I came away actually questioning who I was, what I was about, what really motivated me, what was really important to me, and what did I really want from life and work. And I decided that coaching conversations were so important. They were much more important than creating a glossy brochure. They were much more important than getting bums on seats on courses where I was working at the time. And I just wanted to do more coaching. And my organization were kind of supportive in that they let me do a bit of coaching on some of the programs, but it was, you were employed to be a marketer and this is your job. And I got some coaching myself, and my coach helped me to go down to part-time, see if people would actually pay me to be a coach, see if people would actually support me in my journey. And within a year, I was freelance, and that's 12 to 13 years ago now. And my journey has gone on from coaching to leadership development to writing my book, Rocking Your Role, and continues. And now here I am today speaking with you.
Wonderful. And so this is the reason why I invited Jenny on was because I was really intrigued by her book, Rocking Your Role. And being the main breadwinner myself as a woman and a mum, I really wanted to open this conversation up to the floor because I think there's lots of us that do this. And I know that there are certain days when I feel I'm all good with this isn't a problem, to moments where I feel deeply insecure about it. And it challenges all my paradigms, and that's not how it should be. So I'm curious about what got you to write the book in the first place, actually. Was it because you were living that way? Had you seen other women living that way? What had you start there?
Yeah, it was an article, you know, when you start Googling and you end up somewhere you didn't expect to be. That's exactly what happened to me. I was Googling, ended up here at some research written by an Australian woman on female breadwinners who are nurses. And I just thought, oh, female breadwinners, that's me, actually. I had never thought about it before. I realized that it really resonated. I was the main earner and had been ever since starting my business. My husband, who'd been an accountant, decided to follow his passion and start working with disaffected young people. So not a big issue. We were both working, but suddenly my salary was the larger one. And some of the stories in this research that I read just made me think, yeah, okay, this is real. This is real for these women. This is real for me. How comes I've never had a conversation about it? Me and my friends and my clients talk about, I think, everything. But something we don't seem to talk about was being the main earner. And women do talk a lot, but it was just one of those things we didn't talk about. And I thought, wow, okay, why are we not having this conversation? And I rang my old university and I said, oh, you said one day come back and do a PhD. I think I'm going to do it in female breadwinners. And they said to me, oh, it will take 4 to 7 years part-time. And I thought, who's got 4 to 7 years? Not me. I need to do something now. I've got a bit of a hurry up driver. I wanted to get something. I wanted to write something now. I wanted to talk about this now. And I thought what I would do was write a blog. So I sent some messages out on social media. I'm a big fan of social media, and just said, have you been the main earner? And if so, how did you feel about it? And one of the messages stays with me. It was an American woman, and she said, I was the main earner for 3 years, and those were dark days in my life. And I thought, oof, dark days in your life. It shouldn't be that actually something so good as you being able to earn money for your family should be the worst time of your life. It shouldn't be how you think about it. And that's when I thought, I'm going to do some more research about this, and I'm going to write an article. But when I got the research back, there was so much information, so many stories that needed to be told. It ended up being a book. So that was my journey into it, really. It was the first realization that no one's talking about this, to when I did ask people about it, them having really negative feedback and them feeling that that was a terrible time in their life. And me thinking, well, I've got something to bring to this, which I think can turn that around, that we can look at this in a much more positive way and celebrate it.
So why was nobody talking about it? Did you ever get to the bottom of that?
I think it's a taboo subject. I think women don't talk about money in their relationship. Alongside it comes guilt, resentment, shame for both parties in a relationship. You know, as a woman, actually, I'm a bit guilty because I'm taking your position. You're supposed to be the main earner. Or I'm resenting you because you're supposed to be the main earner. Or isn't this embarrassing? You're supposed to be the main earner. And from the man's perspective, I'm guilty. I'm supposed to be the main earner. Oh, I'm resenting you because you've taken my role. I'm embarrassed. If my friends know or my family know, they're going to laugh at me or jibe me because of it. So those are the real emotions at the bottom of it, actually. Guilt, resentment, shame hold us back from having these very important conversations and bringing it to the fore as something that's very, very current. When I first wrote the book, it was 1 in 5 women that were the main earner. 1 in 5 mums were the main earner. Now it's 1 in 3. That's according to some IPPR research. So 1 in 3 women, mothers, are the equal or main earner in their relationships now. It's really risen. So it's not as if it's not happening, but it's definitely something that we don't talk about enough.
So what's been your insight into the main reason why women find it negative to be the main breadwinner? Is it because they feel responsible? Is it because it challenges their paradigm or the way that because it's so ingrained? Like, I often have this conversation with my mentor about this, where it seems to be so ingrained in our society that men, a way to look after a woman is through providing, right? So that's how it's been for Yonki's years. He went out to hunt, he brought back the food, and she cooked it, back in the caveman times. So I'm curious about that. Is it because it sort of defies caveman times?
Yes. Well, I think even that's a bit of an illusion. I think all of this is a bit of a lie we've told ourselves. So when I was doing my research into families, there are many tribes where the woman is the hunter-gatherer, and the man was at home getting everything ready for when they came to do the cooking. So even all of that stuff, how real is it that we've been told it's, 2.4 children, man brings home the bacon, woman cooks the bacon. I think we've been sold a bit of a fairy tale that didn't exist for most. It hasn't existed for a lot of people in a lot of lives, actually. There have been so many families where over the years where that hasn't been the case, where the man has been the main earner, but where they still keep up that facade that that's the case. And I think the problem is that it hasn't been real, but because we've been told it's real, and because we've kept that story going, we believe it. I'm not saying that there are no families where the man is the main earner at all. I mean, there are a high percentage, but I'm saying there's another high percentage of different stories that just haven't been told. But I think it's a lot around assumptions. I can think of so many examples. I still go to a restaurant with my husband. Who does the waiter give the bill to? Always him.
That's so
always
interesting.
Yeah, and what do? Do you slide the credit card on the table and say, "Oh, you tap it out," or you pay for it, or do you make a joke or say, "Oh, you make up a scenario. Oh, it's his birthday. I'm treating him," and then not go back again because it can't be his birthday every month. So, or do you say, "Actually, I'm paying," and what does that say, and how does that make the other person feel? So there's that kind of thing. And also just a woman's experience. I know that as a female breadwinner, sometimes we don't know how to act, what the best way to behave is, and we can make mistakes. So I can definitely tell you that being the main earner in the beginning, I was making decisions with my money. I was kind of, oh, we're doing this and it's my money and I'm making decisions about it. That's not what you do in a relationship. That's not what you're supposed to do, is it? But it was my money and I was making decisions. And there are case studies in my book of women. A woman, it was like, do we renovate the house or do we put the money into my pension? She was like, well, I'm working and I want it in my pension because actually I don't know what's going to happen in the future. And us having, owning these decisions, but not knowing if that's the right way to go about it, not being sure of our role and how we do this breadwinning thing. Because actually, we haven't really been taught to do that. We've been really taught how to be the person at home who receives a bit of housekeeping. That's the story we've been told. So there's a lot there to unpack in this. And assumptions. I remember my mother-in-law, sadly she's passed away now, coming to our home. Oh, you've got a new kitchen. Oh, you've done this to the garden. Patting my husband on the back. Well done. Yeah, I'm thinking, what do you think I was doing? Yeah, do you think this all came from nowhere? What do you think? Why? I'm going out to work every day, actually. Where is this coming from? So all of the assumptions that are around you, and people who are working in jobs, employed, so many times your boss, even if it's a female boss, assumes that your money is to give a little bit of pin money into the home, to pay for the treats, not to pay for the essentials, or not really the main income in the home. So there are these assumptions that are all around us, stories, assumptions, and we're combating them on a daily basis. And sometimes it's easier not to confront that, not to say, yeah, I'm the main earner. Actually, you give me the bill, or actually, mother-in-law, it was me who did this, because how does that make the other person feel? And how can you do that in a polite way that that is okay for everyone.
I love this conversation. I don't think I've actually had a conversation about this with another, well, actually, apart from my mentor, actually, behind closed doors.
Yes.
But this is such a breath of fresh air. And you know, it reminds me of the other night when my partner and I went and had dinner, and the guy came out with some roses. And he looked at my partner, and I said, and my partner said, "Do you want one? You know, I want to give it to you." And I said, "Sure." And the guy looked at him for the money, and I got my purse out and I gave it to him.
Fantastic.
And he was so shocked. He was like, "Huh?"
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And these, you know, why should he have to pay for a rose for you? Why is he looking to you? And why is all of this happening? And who taught it to us? Who's taught that it has to be like this? You know, I think we can reinvent our fairy tales, but I think we do ourselves a disservice that, you know, I remember all of the stories growing up. The prince was coming on his white horse to rescue me. You know, that's what we're being taught. So when we are doing the rescuing, or when we are equally rescuing each other, that's not how the story was told to us. And so it can be difficult. You know, it can be really, really difficult to kind of compute that and think this is okay. And then there are other things culturally. You know, I've been talking to some groups recently, groups in Africa and other countries where actually, you know, it is a patriarchy. It's a really strong one. And actually, if the woman is the main earner, there's research has shown that there's an increase in domestic violence. You know, them taking the man's role. Why are you doing it? When actually they're doing something fantastic. They're bringing food into the home. They're paying for electricity, all of these things, but they are receiving abuse as a result of it. One of my first interviews was on Radio 4, and they had an author, Tony Parsons, on it. And he said, I'd rather someone cut off my penis than actually me be supported by a woman. He said, I'd rather go to a job I hate day in and day out than be supported by a woman. He said, my dad did a job he hated all his life, and that's what men should do. So, you know, when you're confronted by those very ingrained, strong views from people,
what did you say?
Understand why it's difficult. Actually, I can't actually remember what I said. The interview is somewhere, but you know, I talked about actually happiness. Your whole podcast is about joy, yeah. And actually, why can't men do things that make them happy, and women do things that make them happy? And often, if men did more jobs that made them happy, they might be nicer people. That more relationships would last. And sometimes the things that make them happy don't bring in a lot of money. You know, sometimes you're a musician or a primary school teacher, or your job is you're an artist, and that means you sell one piece and you make some money, but then you don't make any money for a while. Or perhaps you are the person who should be at home, because not all women are great at home with their children. They really are not. And, you know, another myth that's exactly what we should be doing. We were made to do that. Well, not for everyone. Not for everyone.
Yeah, totally. Like, you know, it's funny. We've got 3 cats and a dog.
Okay. Yeah.
And, my partner just, you know, he identifies, like, they are fur babies, right? So he identifies with the fact that that's his role. He looks after the fur babies. So I go off and travel and do what I need to do. My son is with my ex in the States. So I'm kind of in a place where I need to go and get him now. But, you know, I do travel quite a bit, but I know, rest assured, that he's all good with being at home, looking after the fur babies and making sure that the house is looked after. He's a painter and decorator. So he basically paints the house when it needs it and adds value there.
Yes.
So while he may get a few jobs here and there, really where the value is added is in looking after the home. And, you know, we rent out the rooms downstairs, and sometimes we get people when I'm not here. So he looks after that too.
Yes. So
value exchange doesn't necessarily need to look like how much you earn.
Absolutely.
There seems to be a a lot of focus on that as opposed to what each of you are bringing to the table. And one is supporting the other person so they can actually spend more time earning the money, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. What is a partnership? I think one of the things is, what do you bring to the relationship? You do need to bring something, so you need to bring something to the relationship. But as you said, that could be that you are the person. I had a lovely example, actually. I did a talk a while back, and the man was a stay-at-home dad. And he said, I see myself as the McLaren pit stop. She comes in, I polish her up, I change her tires, and off she goes. He was clear on his role. And I thought, yeah, brilliant. And he said it in that's a macho metaphor, isn't it? But he said it, and I thought, exactly, what you're bringing to the relationship, and she really values it. She knows she'll come home, the house will be sorted, her food will be, her dinner will be ready. You'll sort her out with the things that she needs, and she goes off again to do what she's doing in her role. And he brought value to that relationship. If she came home and the house was a complete mess, nothing had been done, he was saying, what are you going to do? Are you going to cook the dinner? And actually, gosh, don't you know that the bathroom needs cleaning and, there's bills to pay? Then actually, what would he be bringing? So it's a partnership, it's a relationship, but you have to know what each of you bring and complement each other.
I think you've really hit a nail on the head here, which is actually to have a conversation about roles. And I guess complications arise when you're both not very clear.
Yes.
On the roles that you're actually playing. And so but like in anything, right? Like in a team or in a job, if nobody's really clear on what they're up to, it's going to get a bit messy, because it's like, I thought you were doing that. No, you were doing that. No, hang on a second.
Absolutely. And it changes as well. The longer you're in a relationship for a long time, those roles can change. And so it's almost like, a regular recontracting, because right now you're not the main earner. You are the main earner, but things could change. Yeah, they could. And I think it's a constant recontracting and rehabbing conversations. According to the research, the things we don't talk about as couples: money, household chores, and in-laws. And we don't do that because those are the things that are going to make us have arguments. They're most likely to be emotive, and we have arguments. But actually, you need to have conversations about money and roles and what it is I do and how that's working. And is that making you happy? Because actually, sometimes it's not making you happy, and you have to decide, okay, if it's not making me happy, how am I going to change it, or what needs to happen for it to make me happy? And so you need to agree these things. There are some dangers here as well. So there are women I've met who their partner has said, I'm happy to stay at home, be a stay-at-home husband, maybe with children, whatever. And they've gone, but almost thought, I dare you to do it. You won't survive it. You won't like it. And then their husbands have loved it. And they're like, oh, I didn't really want this. So you have to be careful when you agree to a role, that actually you really want it to be the case as well. So it's not just talking about the roles. It's really thinking through the implications, thinking if you really want the person to have that role. Is it temporary? Is it forever? Are we going to review it? Yeah. All of these conversations need to be had.
But what's clear is they need to be had.
They definitely need to be had.
And I remember watching, I don't know if it was Finland or Iceland, one of those countries where the majority of men are at home looking after the kids. And they were being interviewed by someone around that, and they were all saying, how they were just over the moon in terms of being able to be at home, to meet up, to look after their kids. And it was just really cool, because it just, once again, flies in the face of this fantasy that we have and this illusion that we have of how it should be, and then beat ourselves up about how it is. Yes. As opposed to just going with what is and just making the most of the situation that is at hand at that moment.
Absolutely. I think men have had a bit of a raw deal, to be honest, where they haven't even had permission to even say, I'd like to go to, the school play. I'd like to be more involved at home. I'd like to be home for bedtime. They haven't had permission to ask, which is why parental leave is not being taken up very well in the UK. So now we have parental leave, not just maternity leave. And lots of men aren't taking it up because they think it's going to go against them. So even when you're offered the space and opportunity, men are still not taking it because they feel that bias against them, which is, why would you do that? Why are you going to take an extra 2 weeks? That's not your role. That shows you're not committed. And so there is a lot there for men, which says, actually, that's not what you're supposed to be doing. And even men tell me when once their partner is the higher earner, and so they are the ones who, if their child's ill or their elderly relatives poorly, that they need to go because actually the other role is bringing in more of the money, that their boss will say to them, well, why can't your partner go? Why is it you? There's an assumption that it would always be the woman. So we have a double bind when we are the main earner, because actually we are the main earner, but usually the main carer as well. And, if that's elderly relatives, if that's children, if that's pets, whatever, people are always assuming that, oh, the woman, why isn't she doing it? That's her role. And so we take on another role as main earner or breadwinner, but we often still have all of the other roles on our shoulders at the same time. If someone comes to your home and it's in a bit of a mess, for example, they'll probably look to you, even though your partner is the person who, maintains your home, and say, oh, why is the washing up there? She's not doing a good job, is she? When actually, what has it got? Why would it be your role to do the washing up? So there's so much there in terms of bias and assumptions that still is with us all. And we need to challenge. It's not just with men, it's with women too. We have a bias about women's roles. We are tougher on other women when they hold senior roles as well. There's a lot that we need to unpack and work through and challenge ourselves around.
But what I'm really hearing in this conversation is that we're actually going through a transition, maybe
Yes.
in sort of the more sort of first world countries, because as you said, there are tribes that
Yes.
where the women go out and do their thing.
Yes.
But we are in a bit of transition, and I guess we're attempting just to figure it out because there still is the shame, as you said. And you were saying too that we're like, okay, so we don't have any role models. How do we do this? We're attempting to figure it out. And then, then we've got cultures, right? So
yes.
Life isn't about people staying in the same place, in the same space as they used to. You've got people traveling all over, people from Latin America coming over to Europe, and maybe getting involved with that sort of culture. That culture is definitely patriarchal, where that person goes out and earns the money and then brings it in and so forth. So I guess it really is about what works, right?
Yes. Yeah.
For each person, as opposed to kind of, this is how it is. This is society. Yeah, absolutely. Working out what works for you, and then not listening to all of that. You should. There's I've forgotten the author now. It's an amazing woman, an American woman, and she writes in her book, should is a 4-letter word, SHUD, like a swear word. That should, you should be in a relationship that looks like this. You should be doing that. Your life should be like this. And often it's the closest people to us, sometimes family and close friends, who kind of telling you how your life should be. And that is really dangerous because no one's walking in your shoes. The life, parents had, the life friends have, is different to you. And it's about you crafting the life that you want. And the funny thing is, whenever you do craft the life you want, you give permission for other people to do the same. And that's so important, because the more, I can tell you, when I first wrote my book, I felt quite vulnerable. I was opening up my life, a bit of my relationship to the world. And every time someone opened my book at the book launch, I was like, oh my gosh, they've reached into my soul here. They know stuff about me. But
how liberating was it to be vulnerable and then to see so many other people say, yeah, we don't talk about this. Yeah, to be at my launch and I say, how many people here are female breadwinners, and women to put their hands up. And for me to know that's probably the first time they've ever put their hand up, and the first time they've ever talked about it, and how liberating that was for them. And so there is something about actually ditching the shoulds. And I'm not saying that's an easy thing to do, ditching the shoulds and actually saying, this is how I want my life to be. But knowing as a result, it really helps other people, not just yourself. It helps you too.
Yeah. What I heard in that too was me too, as in when you're able to express what other people are thinking and not expressing, it brings about permission to talk about it and to put something on the table that has been totally put underneath the carpet because it's not something that we want to talk about. So if somebody is listening in and going, okay, fine, so I'm the main breadwinner, and I struggle with that. I really struggle with that. And although there are moments that I see clearly like what value the other person brings, it still rubs up against my fantasy that I have of being looked after and having the main breadwinner be the man. What would you say to that? What have you, because maybe it is not being able to see the benefits of being the main breadwinner. What have you seen around that?
I think definitely there's something about actually what brings you joy in your life and what is good and what are you grateful for. I think coming from that place, first of all, is a really important thing to do. So it might not be what you fantasized about, but actually what is really great about it. And there'll be some fantastic things. There'll be actually, you actually have your own money and independence. You actually are in control of quite a lot of things in your life, which lots of people aren't. And actually, hopefully you enjoy the way that you make money. Because I think if earning is a big part of your life, finding a way to enjoy earning, I think is really key. But there are probably lots of other things. It might be I'm escaping some of that family life that I don't really like doing anyway, you know? But find your joy and your gratitude around it, I think is one of the first things to do. The other is there are rules that we live our lives by, but that often are not our own. Okay, so, and they make us feel guilty typically. So guilt is a list of rules that we create that we've decided we can't break. Yeah. And there'll be, you know, a good daughter does this, a good wife does this, a good colleague does that, whatever they are. But most of the time they're absolute load of rubbish. There's someone else's rules. There's someone else's guidance for their life. And I think find out what those rules you're living your life by are that are making you feel bad about your life. Rip them up and write your new rules for the life that you are living and that you want to live. And once you do that, you'll be free from so much stuff because it's everybody else's stuff. It's not your rules. It's not the way that you want to live your life. And the third thing is you do need that. If you're really unhappy in this relationship that you're in, you need to have a conversation about it. You need to have a conversation about your role as main earner, about how it makes you feel, about how it makes your partner feel, about whether this is short-term, long-term, about what it means for the two of you. Okay. If you can't see in 10 years time that you being happy because actually you don't want to be the main earner, and that's what does your partner need to do? Do they need to requalify and take their turn being the main earner? You're happy to do it for a while, but actually in 5 years' time, do you want to see them taking up the reins? Do you want to be pulling back? And what does that look like for the two of you? How can you make that happen? Or do both of you, do you want to do some other do you want to do property development or something like that where neither of you will need to earn in the future because you've got this nest egg? So you need to plan for the future that you want, but you need to start talking about it now. Because the longer you don't talk about it, the longer you're like the people I meet who say, I wish I'd read your book before I got divorced. Yeah, and I get a lot of that. I wish I'd had that conversation. We didn't talk. We got angry. It got worse. We split up. And that's what happens. So the communication is key, even if it's painful, even if it's difficult. And it's not just one conversation. It's an ongoing series of conversations to get to where you want to go. It never is one conversation, let's tie it up in a pretty bow and we're done. It's an ongoing series. And it might be, I broach this topic and then I let it go because it's a bit too sensitive, but then I broach it again and I keep broaching it until we get somewhere with it and we move forward with it.
I'm getting really emotional. Yeah. Yeah, what I heard in that was just, it doesn't, because interestingly enough, this is a topic that is a bit of a red hot chili pepper in our relationship. And truth be told, this is a very selfish podcast episode.
Okay. That's good. It's you own it. You're in control of it. Yeah. Why not?
And I wanted to get more clarity around this for me. So what I really heard in that is it is an ongoing conversation. I had just assumed that it was a pretty bow. There we go. Have the conversation. You either have it, you don't. And it's not. It's a conversation that it's just checking in. Where are we both right now with this? Are you having a bad time with this? If you are, what could we do about that? And it's just getting curious about each other's worlds, which really it comes down to, once again, more love and understanding, regardless of the topic, actually, regardless of whether it is money, regardless of whether it is sexuality, regardless of whether it is who's going to do the groceries today. And, it's interesting hearing you talk. What came to mind was I had a massive insight into my money story years ago when I inherited money, which is basically I was given an estate to manage. And I don't have a rags to riches story, actually. So unfortunately, anybody that was waiting for that one, it's not going to happen because I had it, never really had that issue. But the challenge I was having was actually not really understanding money and then given this massive responsibility. It was huge. And I actually wanted to give it away. Like there was a lot of, what the fuck am I doing with this? I have no idea. I don't trust myself. There was a big learning curve to happen because in my family, and I don't know if anybody can relate that's listening, my dad he was really tight. And so he invested a lot of his money, but that didn't really leave much money for my mother. And so she decided she was going to earn money too. I don't know if they ever had the conversation, but she worked her fucking butt off, but not happily. It was getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. It was like push, just to be able to buy me clothes. And so when he passed away, that money was a representation for me where that was never actually enjoyed. It was squirreled away. And it was such a huge, it felt like such a huge responsibility on my shoulders. And anyway, I then had this epiphany that I was walking around with my dad's money story. And I'd never seen it that clearly before because I felt totally guilty for having this money and was really worried I was going to lose it. And so I had to invest it all. And then one very fortunate month, I didn't have enough money to pay my bills because it was all invested. And then I thought, oh crap, this money story isn't working for me anymore. Oh crap, it's my dad's money story. It's not mine. What could mine be instead? And it was this weird experience of space that showed up where all of that thinking just dropped away. All of that blah, 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 blah just stopped. And in its place was the spaciousness that then the question showed up was, what's your money story going to be? What would you love that to be? How would you love it to look like? And then I realized it's not fixed, as you were pointing out earlier on. It's actually something we can experiment with, right? Like if we're making it up as we go along, which is basically what you're saying.
Absolutely. I think that's what we're doing for our whole lives.
Why don't just we have fun with it and experiment?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what have you seen in terms of women who have become who are very conscious about it, shameful that this isn't right. I'm looking for the story, the prince coming in on his white horse. What have you seen in terms of transformations around that for them?
I think often it's a lot of letting go. I think the first thing is, yeah. I think the first thing is, do you want to do the things that make you the main earner? Yeah. So if you really love your job and you're traveling around the world and you're doing all these things and you really enjoy it, those are the things that make you the main earner. Do you want to continue doing them? So are they making you happy? If they are, because that's the first thing. Is it actually an enjoyable life? So that, the work life. And if it is, then it's also a process of letting go. I found actually, what can I just trust my partner to do? What can I entrust them to do? Am I still holding on to a lot of a role that isn't mine? And what is the process for doing that? And what's the worst that could happen? Actually, what's the risk in doing that to me? Because typically there isn't such a huge risk. Typically, when you start letting go, you're holding on to things. There isn't a reason to hold on to those things. It's often because other people have told you should be holding on to those things, or you think that as a woman, I should be holding on to these things, or whatever they are. And it's actually, how can I start to let them go? And how does it feel to let them go? I talk about it in my book as you're carrying around a massive handbag full of stuff, bricks, I think of it as. Actually, if you take that handbag laden with bricks off your shoulders, how much better does that feel? Why have you been carrying it around? Because everyone said you should. Everyone's telling you should, but there's no other reason. You're not about to build a wall. You don't need these bricks. And if you do need to pick them up again, you can find them. They're everywhere. So actually, how can I start to let go? And often it's about trusting the person you're in this relationship with. And it's about deciding who does what as well. Actually, people often think because you're the main earner, you should be the money manager. Sometimes your partner's the better money manager, actually. Are you taking on the main earning role and also doing other stuff that you don't even like doing because you think it comes with the role? Sometimes it is right to be you, sometimes it's not. So it's about actually taking a step back and just thinking, what can I ditch? Because actually I'm this main earner and I'm also 100 other things and I don't need to be. Every bit of responsibility in the world doesn't have to be on my shoulders alongside that. So what can the other person help me with? What do I need them to help me with? And what do I need them to understand? One of the things a woman in the book said to me, who was also a client, she said to me, my husband says, thank you. He says, thank you. We wouldn't go on this holiday if you weren't this person. We wouldn't have this house if you weren't this person. And I remember when she said it, it really resonated with me because I thought, well, has my husband said thank you? And I actually spoke to him about it. And I said, you're really encouraging. My husband's really encouraging in a way, which is like, go for it. You've got this opportunity, go for it. But sometimes that makes me feel like, am I just a workhorse? Am I just a workhorse? Yeah, go for it. This will be great for you, blah, blah, blah. And I know he's not doing it because of that. He's just being encouraging supporter. But for me, it can feel like, you're just encouraging me to work and work and work. That's, actually, I need more than that. And when I said it to him, he was like, oh, I do say thank you. I was like, no, I don't need you to just be thank you. But actually, yeah, thank you. We're in this position because, yeah, you are in this role. And it was a bit of a light bulb moment in our relationship. The whole process of doing this but it was like, yeah, I need you to actually to say what you do creates a positive impact for us all. I need you to say it sometimes.
Yeah. Oh my God. I had the same conversation with my partner yesterday. And you know, sometimes the thank you is, I'm doing you a favor. And the ego gets in the way and is like, well, I don't want you to do me a favor. Like, I'm not here. I'm not charity, you know, like that sort of stance, as opposed to, wow, thanks. Like, this is so cool. You know, like coming from that energy.
Yes.
Not, oh my God, like, look what you've created. This is awesome. I'm having a great time. Absolutely.
And that's where it should be, that kind of, that higher level of, thanks. Wow.
Just an accept, like, and it's interesting because I said to him, I need to hear it.
Yeah.
Like, to me, it's not that I need you to be, like, submissive on this. It's not like coming from a place of you owe me.
No.
It's not coming from that place. It's coming from a place of, are we good? Like, it was checking in, like, is this working for you?
Yes.
Like, are you appreciating this situation? Like, is it something that lights you up? Is it not? It's more of going back to this thing of loving and understanding again, I think.
Yes. Yeah. Loving, understanding, appreciating. I think I think that's a big part of it. And I think it's really important. And appreciation works both ways.
It does.
But I definitely think when you're in this role,
receive it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I guess this is kind of cool in terms of if there are kids involved, right? Because obviously they see reverse. But I imagine that this is something in this day and age, as you said, it's growing. So we're in an upward trend and we're in a shift and we're in a transition. And so it's at some point, I'm assuming, that this will no longer be a thing. This will be just, well, that's how it is.
Yes. Yeah, I hope so. But it's taking a long time. And I've had women send me messages before, like, why do we need to talk about this? This is not an issue. But then I have people saying to me, this is a big issue. And I can tell you, if you go to any primary school playground, and there's a very few dads picking up their children. And the dads who are there, most of the time, don't feel so comfortable. And there's very few dads at playgroup. And there's very few men who do the caring for elderly relatives. And people ask questions. They are questioning. Are they out, for the man? Is he out of work? Or what does he do with himself? And they question that so much more than they would if it was a woman. So there is something about how do we make this more acceptable and okay for men? How do we not make them feel that it's difficult and they shouldn't be in that position? Because the more we help them to be in it, the more the women in that position will feel more comfortable as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I'm curious, like, what have you discovered the answer to that?
I haven't really discovered the answer to that, actually. I've had, over the years, quite a few men come and find life really difficult, find it difficult when the children are growing up and they need to go back to work. Like, how do they get back into the workplace? How do they explain what they've been doing when they've been doing a fantastic role at home? How do they, because what happens is they are either exotic. Isn't he amazing? He looks after his children. He's the most fabulous person. Oh, he plays with his children. Oh, he's changed a nappy. Woo! It's all of that nonsense, which is absolutely not, or it's, why is he doing it? We don't trust him,
Right.
Is there a problem? And so there's a lot more to do. And I think, men building a community and women engage and encouraging and supporting men in these roles. I haven't found the solution. I know that in like London, for example, when I've spoken to women, they say, well, it's a bit bigger community of stay-at-home dads or nannies or whatever. There's more of a community of a mixture of people. So it's a bit more acceptable. But then you go out to places, not as diverse as London, and you become very rare and unusual, and it's difficult and it's isolating. Yeah.
What occurs to me is, I did a values exercise with one of my mentors recently, and it kind of occurred to me that this might be a really great thing to do with partner, because of course they might discover that they're disgruntled, right, with the fact that they might have to do this and blah blah blah. But then actually when they realize that it's what they find important. So looking after the home, making sure the dogs and cats are fine, making sure that everything like that is looked after. Once they actually see, actually this is what I value.
Yes.
As opposed to this is what I'm being told to do.
Yes.
It can shift.
Yes.
The way we see it, because I don't value staying at home with the dogs and the cats. I just value it. I value the work I do. I value I value a house that's in order. And while there are some things that I do, like declutter shit, because most of it is my son's, because my partner isn't, his dad. There are certain things that I actually don't mind doing at all, like the decluttering side of it. It's no biggie for me. But there are other things that I really like, picking up the dog poo. Like I really don't want to spend my time doing that,
Yeah. I don't blame you. Yeah.
But it can be quite a controversial topic. Well, you've got a dog. That's your responsibility, surely.
Yes. Yeah.
I did it once and I said, you know what? I'm either going to hire somebody to do this or, darling.
Yes. Yeah.
Really supporting me and our environment if you did it.
Yes.
We had a bit of a moment.
Yeah. Yes. And the fact is that in your job, you're going to have to do some things you don't want to do.
True. Absolutely.
It's not every minute is not, a party in anyone's life. Every job has some bits you might have to do some admin, you might have to do some whatever that you don't want to do, but you do it. And that's every role. But there'll be joy in that.
I love that. That is so true. And we often think that actually the grass is green and the other person has it better. But actually that's not true. I have to sit for hours going through our finances and, writing down and tracking the numbers. And, sometimes I don't want to do that. Sometimes I do. It just depends on the day. But Jenny, is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
I think if you are the main earner and you're a woman, you really need to look after yourself. I think that's really focus on your well-being. It's so important. We give a lot in lots of different directions. You'll give to your clients, you'll give to your partner, you'll give, even though your son's not here, you're probably giving to him virtually, you're giving. If we don't take a step back and just think, what do I need for me? We can't be main earners and everyone suffers. Not just, we think people are going to suffer if we can't give everything to them. They suffer if we don't give to ourselves. So this is so important. It's not selfish, to have some me time. It's selfish not to. Find your space, whatever that is, a drink with your girlfriends, a wonderful bubble bath, a walk on your own, a retreat, whatever it is, find some space and give back to you. And then you can be resourceful enough to keep going. But I think particularly for women, when they're the main earner, you need to carve out that time. Men are great at finding hobbies and things like that. They always have a hobby. They always find the time to escape the stuff. Women, we're not so good at that. And actually find some space and find some me time and just actually give something back to you and make that a ritual, make that regular. So that's my biggest piece of advice.
Love it, Jenny. I'm totally down with that. It's it was a new discovery for me about a year ago. And now, what do you do? I go for massages and I see a kinesiologist twice a month. just to make sure that my body's in balance. And I go to yoga, I take the dog for the walk sometimes, and I go and I sing in a rock choir.
Wow. Oh, you've got some great things going on. Yeah, that sounds brilliant. Mine are a bit more sedate. There's something I love to do is go into a flotation tank. Have you done that?
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. And it just slows everything down. I think an hour in a flotation tank for me is like 24 hours of sleep. It's just like I'm refreshed. I come out and I'm just clear and I'm just refreshed, and actually I'm slower, and that's a good thing. To think more slowly, to talk more slowly, to be
slowly.
Yeah, so that is my thing that I love to do on a regular basis. And I also organize retreats that I enjoy myself. So I have 2 retreats a year, and I actually really benefit from that space as well.
Yeah, we do. And I've got to say, when I do work with my clients, I benefit from it too. And even this podcast, this is for me like my well-being hour.
Good.
So my lovely, if somebody wants to carry on the conversation or get in touch with you, how can they do that?
So my website is jennygarrett.global, and Garrett is GARRETT. That's the best way to get in contact with me. So yeah, jennygarrett.global. Lots of ways to contact me when you go through there. And social media, Coach Jenny Garrett or Jennifer Garrett. You'll find me on those handles.
Thank you so much, Jenny. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I have enjoyed this immensely. And then I said, this is a very selfish episode because I wanted to deepen my understanding of this role. And I hope it's been beneficial for those of you that have actually listened to it today. Until the next time, bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much.
And there we have it, another amazing episode of The Joy of Being. If you enjoyed this podcast, you may well enjoy the book as well. You can either download a free chapter, www.marinapearson.com/chapter, where I go into much more depth into how we can create more time and space as mums. And if that doesn't fly and you're more curious about getting the entire book, then you can do that too at www.marinapearson.com/pre-order. There you'll find a page with all the amazing goodies that you'll get if you pre-order it before the 10th of May. So until next week's episode, remember, you are the joy you seek.